Welcome everyone to the Squid Ultimate Elite Fan Show. I'm Mike Wilson, the Ultimate Elite fan. Joining me as always, my winger Ricky Squid Vibe. Squid, what about those Blue Jays? Certainly make it interesting for us.
Well, it's going down to the wire, Mike. That's for sure. And
Yeah.
they got a pretty very talented team. Their pitching staff is good. The one thing I will say is that I do see them probably feeling the pressure a little bit going down to the wire because some of their starting pitchers have had some bad outings. Some of the young guys are chasing pitches, but you know what? They're in a great position right now to get in as a wild card.
Well, with all that aside, maybe the guys in the building east of the dome will take note of what it takes to get to that next level. This is where we have to go with this eventually. The Jays may not get there. They need lots of help with the next 4 games. But if anything, the message is there's no easy route to success.
No, definitely not. You look at, I mean, you play 162 games,
Yeah,
and it comes down to like your last 5 games of the season. I mean, it's incredible how baseball is that way. But I mean, you're right. I mean, you gotta you gotta be prepared for when it really counts, and that's in the playoffs. And this is playoffs for the Blue
absolutely.
Jays right now. I mean, it may as well be the wild card games every game because it comes down to that.
Well, think about this. If you'd said at the start of the season, this team would have 4 100 RBI guys, 6 guys, it should be
Yeah.
7 if Springer had played the whole year with at least 20 home
Hmm.
runs, a Cy Young favorite if he wins tonight, he should win the award. You got a kid from Markham, Ontario with 20 plus saves as a reliever. You'd say the team's a lock for the playoffs. Well, guess what? All those statistics mean squat with a minimum of 36 innings left to play. And I'll tell you what, it sounds familiar, Leaf fans? Big numbers. You have to take the game to the next level beyond the numbers. The intangibles have to start coming in. And this is the message maybe the Marners and Matthews could be observing along with the supporting cast. The point is, they can't do it all themselves.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing, uh, I've been watching pretty closely the games lately, and for quite a while actually. But the one thing I notice is that that they're kind of an aggressive team at the bat at the
Plate.
offensively and that sort of thing. But I don't see them manufacturing runs. Like you just brought it up. Like there's little things that you need to do in order to win a championship. And one of the things is you got a runner at first base, you got to move them over. And I'm seeing that they're not bunting, they're not moving runners over, they're not, things like that. The little things that go into winning baseball games or hockey games, it could be the same darn thing when it really counts. And I'm surprised that they're not doing more of that. I mean, hit and run, stealing bases. I mean, if you're going to be that aggressive at the plate, you may as well be that aggressive in your entire game. And I just think that moving runners over, getting them into scoring position, uh, I think that's so important. And I don't see them doing that really from my perspective anyway.
Well, I mean, where I'm going with this is I'm trying to put the analogy with the Maple Leafs and make some similarities. And you can your point is well taken. That's exactly what you need to
Yeah,
do to win. The little things. So my
yeah.
question to you now is what's your thoughts on camp so far with what you've seen with the Leafs? Any surprises from any of the players?
No, I mean, we've heard a lot about Bunting and everybody that they've brought in, new guys, and he's had a good camp obviously so far as scoring
Yeah.
anyway. I haven't, been down there to see anything or either one of the games because they weren't even on TV for God's sakes. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was like you can't even get a game unless you buy the NHL package. But anyway, that's another story. But you know what? I really don't get into it until about halfway through the season and see where things are before I make any kind of assumptions of who I think is going to win or who I think has a very good chance of winning. I don't think you really know until about halfway through the season because changes are made, guys are sent down, and other guys are called up. Everybody the first month, 2 months of the season, they're trying different things and I don't think you can really honestly look at the league and say, okay, these 5 teams have a real good chance until you get to about 2 or 3 months into the season.
Well, I'm looking for the players that are going to maybe try and crack this lineup and help push this team to the next level. And I mean, outside of the obvious guys, you expect to make at least an impact. Richie, Camp, Bunting, and Cachet. My thought would have to be Josh Hosang. If they can get something out of him, he's abundantly skilled. He lost his way for a few years. So if they can get him on the Galchenyuk train, minus the playoff giveaway, that's the kind of surprises teams salivate over. And that's what they got to be looking for. I mean, the other guys, it's a given.
Yeah, I mean, the other guys are showing pretty good in the preseason anyway. Hosang had a pretty good game last night from what I read. Can he make this team and make a difference? I'm not really sure. I mean, again, I'd have to see him through 10, 15, 20 games in the regular season if he does make the club, because from what I've seen when he was with the Islanders, he wasn't exactly one of those guys that listened to everybody and, did what he was told. And that doesn't mean he's a bad player or a bad person, but let me see 15 games of him playing in a Leaf uniform before I make any judgments.
Well, this is where I'm going with this, because now we get into the preseason. Your thoughts on him on generally? Personally, I think they're a waste of time. You don't get it. It's not a true measure of a player's mettle playing against lower level players or lower level caliber. I'd rather guys battle out in camp head to head.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I agree with you to a point, but at the same time, you got 50 guys at camp or whatever, something like that. I mean, there's quite a few guys at camp, and I really think that watching them scrimmage every day, even though they're fighting for jobs in their scrimmages, I don't think you really see what they can do until you play meaningful games against other opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 8 or 9 exhibition games, yeah, that's way too many. I mean, you don't need that many. You already know, out of your 23 players that you're going to keep at the start of the year, you probably already know that 17 or 18 of them are going to be there, maybe even 19. So there's very few that you have to kind of decide on who makes a team and who doesn't. So, maybe 2 or 3 exhibition games would be fine, but 8 or 9, that's way too many.
Well, I mean, to your point, I mean, the guys are betting you're not going to pay Richie $2.5 million to come in and he doesn't make the team in preseason, so you're not going to play him. Like, he's playing. Like, they did. Yeah. The scouts doing their homework. Well, if he doesn't, we've got a problem with scouting because they've obviously watched him. So what he can play in a lineup, and Bunting can play, and Camp can play, and Cachet can play. So they're good. It's not a question whether they're giving him a shot. I mean, but where I'm going with all this, I mean, I'd rather see more work done on the ice, working with the team. And I know they do have to play games. I get all that. But how many guys actually come into camp as a professional tryout guy, stand out and make a team out of the blue? Now, Thomas Cabry wasn't a professional tryout, but I mean, he came in as a rookie. He made the team. He's one of the few that I can remember ever doing it. Mason Raymond came in as on a PTO Cup, number 2013 is the last I recall. But he had a background of playing in the league. So, I mean, look at Gary Lehman. Gary Lehman came in as a rookie, made the team, was told he made the team. They sent him back to junior. You were the best player in camp.
Yeah.
He sent him back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's you bring a guy in a professional tryout, he's got about that much room of making the team. Like I said, you pretty much know 19, 20, 21 guys that are going to be on your hockey club when camp opens.
Yeah.
And their jobs are pretty solid. And that one of the things is today is that these guys are all on one-way contracts for the most part. Very few of them are on 2-way contracts today in the National Hockey League. So, you're not sending a guy down that's making $2 or $3 million. It's just not happening. Unless there's a problem with that individual off the ice or something. But it's not going to happen. So there's very little room for a guy on a PTO to walk in and make the hockey club. And if he does, he might be the 23rd guy on the roster and may not even get to play a whole lot early in the season. So I agree with you on that. I mean, I don't see bringing guys in on PTOs being that much of a big thing because for the most part, they don't make the hockey club.
Well, we want to get into the camps a little bit. I mean, they've come a long way from the punch Imlach days. Players had to report to Peterborough. Maybe some of the listeners don't know this, but one of the forms, and I actually have a sheet. I should bring it out and show y'all one day from a letter to a player. They have to be able to do 20 sit-ups, 20 push-ups, and run a mile. And don't forget your golf clubs. Golf was mandatory, and they had to play 9 holes every day at least. And this goes right back into the 20s and the Conn Smythe days when training. That was one of the rituals. Was they would get up, and then when they had the first physical trainer, which was Colonel Austin Hatfield, which was Chris Hatfield's father, the astronauts. That's his grandfather. Pardon me. Yeah. And he ran them, and they would come off, do 45-minute workout. Then they would have breakfast. Then they'd be on the ice for an hour. Then they'd play 9 holes of golf, have lunch, and be on the ice for a couple hours in the afternoon. That was their training camp back in the 20s. So today, though, so you come from the era, not quite that soft. It was pretty brutal with those 2-a-days. Like, talk about those and how grueling some of those were.
It was very difficult. It really was. And, you had, when I played, we had 80 people, 80 players at camp. So we had 4 teams, and you would scrimmage whatever. You might practice in the morning and then skate for a half an hour or 40 minutes. And then in the afternoon, you'd scrimmage for an hour, and then you would skate for a half an hour. And you'd have lunch in between. And then I remember the one camp, we were in Belleville, which was an Olympic-sized ice surface. And Dan Maloney took the water off the bench. He said, no water on the bench. And we're skating on an Olympic-sized rink. We're doing laps and everything. And I mean, it affected everybody because, I mean, it was very, very difficult to get through that camp because it was so hard. And no water on the bench. Like, guys were getting cramps left and right. And I mean, but that's the way it was back then. And there was no stuff done in the gym or anything. It was a stretch, get on the ice, and they worked your tail off.
Well, you can think about these sort of the anger thermometers. They would be just busting. So how many brawls would there be during some of those scrimmages? There must have been half a dozen every day.
Well, there was at least a half a dozen fights in every scrimmage, no question. And that was because you always had these tough guys fighting the other tough guys trying to make the hockey club. And, I mean, it was kind of crazy, really, when you had 80 people at camp, so 4 teams, and you basically, played a round robin, and you played every team at least once, sometimes twice. And, and then, of course, bad blood starts to happen. And then by the time you get into about your 3rd or 4th day, I mean, it's like all out war. And it was pretty crazy, really, when you think about it. But you got 80 guys that are trying to make that team to play in the National Hockey League. And that's why it was like that.
Well, you got 80 guys and you're trying to get noticed. And outside of the star players,
that too,
you're going to do what it takes to get noticed in best ways. So what's one of the better brawls you saw over the time or mentioned? The Clark McGuire one is the one that guys always seem to talk about a lot.
Yeah, that's not one I really recall, but I do recall Kim Claxon, who played for the Winnipeg Jets in the WHA, came to our camp. And I don't know why he wanted to fight me, but for some reason, maybe I was in front of the net and we got a little thing going in front of the net, but he wanted to fight me. So anyway, we ended up fighting, and I wasn't in his league as far as toughness, but I did okay. And then I grabbed his helmet, it came off, and I threw it all the way down to the other end of the ice because I was so pissed off that he actually fought me. And I wasn't in his category. I mean, leave me alone. Go fight the tough guys if you want to make the hockey team. You're not going to make the team by beating me up. So, go and beat up one of those tough guys.
Well, yeah. Well, my cousin, when he tried it for the Marlies, he ran George Ferguson in practice, and he got traded for running the captain. Little difference in your world. Like when that happened, you go, so now your first camp when you with the Bulls, as an example, and even do the comparative with Vancouver, what did you do? Did you take runs at anybody your first camp as a Bull? Especially the lights are going to be on all you guys as the baby Bulls.
I didn't take runs at anybody, but either there or in Vancouver. But I played aggressive. I mean, that was just my mentality was to play aggressive, and and of course, people have said, like you got to stand up for yourself, and or you're not going to get room. They're gonna be on you all the time. So I made sure that I took care of that, and I got involved as much as I possibly can. Yeah, I had a few fights in training camps in both those camps. But that was mainly just to say, hey, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. You can beat the heck out of me if you want. You can break your hand on my helmet, but I'm here to stay, and I'm going to make sure of that. So, that was my mentality going into camp. And so, if anybody wanted to go, I mean, it was one of those things that you just did. And
well, what I was looking for, Squid,
what
the difference between the Birmingham, you're new, and now all eyes are on you. Now you go to Vancouver,
yeah.
you're fifth player taken overall. Their eyes are going to be on you, but you've already played with the men. You showed you can play. You led the team in score. You led the team in fights and all that kind of stuff. Did you take a little different approach going into Vancouver, or did you go looking for a little still the same way?
No, it wasn't any different, Mike. I still had the same mentality. I mean, it was my first year in the National Hockey League, so I had to establish myself. I mean, the worst part was before camp opened, we had to do a 5 mile run.
Yeah.
And Harry Neal went to the press and said that he beat me in the 5 mile run. Well, I don't think Harry could have walked 5 miles back then, let alone run. So he certainly didn't beat me. I know that. And maybe my conditioning wasn't at the level that he expected it to be or he wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But there's no question that he did not beat me in a 5 mile run. So that was kind of the start of what happened between Harry and I. I think it just progressed throughout the season. I thought I was playing okay. I don't think my teammates were disappointed in how I was playing. But obviously Harry saw it in a different light, and then eventually ended up in the press box and then got traded. So, and then that was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Well, you know what? One man's loss, other man's gain. The Toronto fans, gotcha.
What
They're
do
all
they
very
say?
happy.
One man's trash is another man's treasure.
Well, I didn't want to call you the trash, because we already talked about the trash. They ain't you trashers.
Well, Harry thought I was trash. So
you were a Vancouver trasher. So you were way before. You're before AJ Galante. You set it up already before Jimmy's dad did. So there you are. So one last question for you before we go. Your approach to preseason games back in the day, and then actually when you're an established player, did you just you have to watch yourself, because you don't want to be out there and put yourself in a vulnerable position where some idiot can run you, but you can't be going all out. Or did you?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much, looked at exhibition games like I did the regular season or playoffs. I didn't play any different. Let's put it that way. I mean, yeah, I was careful. I made sure that, I didn't put myself in any vulnerable situations where, there was a chance that I could get, a bad injury or anything. But it didn't change my game whatsoever. I went hard, and especially in Toronto, when you're the captain, you want to show everybody that what it's going to take in order to make this hockey club. And I wanted to be the guy that was, the leader of that. And so I didn't approach it any differently than I did regular season or playoffs.
No, I figured you're going to say that. I gave you a chance anyway for it to say you floated a little bit, but
no.
No, I knew you weren't like that. Well, they have 3 games left, 2 weeks before the real tilt start. So let's give the lads, and the Blue Jays I know they're all listening for the game, so we want to get this out quickly because they're on the field in half an hour or so. The guys grinding it out in the trenches of camp, want to leave them with this thought. Are you ready for this week's?
I'm ready.
The only place
success, pretty good.
No, here we go. The only place success comes before work is in the dictionary.
Oh.
That one out.
You're absolutely right on that. I will say that.
I thought you would appreciate that one. Guys, if you're listening, you can use it.
I like that one.
And remember that one. Yeah. I'll say it to you one more time. The only place success comes before work is in the dictionary. And there's today's food for thought for the Blue Jays and for the Leafs moving forward. So that's all we have for today, folks. Until next week, we'll try and be back at our regular time. We had some scheduling problems this week. Golf and all kinds of other different things were getting in the way. So next Wednesday, 6 o'clock will be our time. We'll talk about talk about what's been happening in camp and so on. Don't forget to tune into this week's podcast. Drops Friday at 6 p.m. featuring Stuart Gavin. Stewie was on with us this afternoon recording. He's got some great stories as we usually try to pry out of these guys. You won't be disappointed listening to him. Till then, enjoy the week, everyone, and let's go Jays.
Yeah, absolutely. They got to win tonight.
Yep, I think they're gonna. Robbie Ray's gonna be dynamite.
I think they're gonna win too. Robbie Ray, Cole didn't have a great outing last night. He wants to win the Cy Young. He's going all out tonight. He may go 8 innings tonight.
Oh, there's the prediction, folks. 8 innings.